Right now on Morning News Now, he was with Donald Trump on January 6th. Now he's a key witness in a special counsel investigation. This morning, we're learning more about a former White House aide who has now testified again before a federal grand jury. Former President Trump expecting to be indicted in that investigation over alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We have team coverage with the latest. Also this morning, unrelenting, another day, another triple-digit forecast. And now forecasters are warning this record-breaking heat wave could go well beyond the summer. Plus, parts of the South picking up the pieces after a night of severe storms. We'll show you the damage, plus what's in store this weekend. Three's the goal. This morning, excitement is growing for the Women's World Cup as Team USA gears up to defend its title and win a historic third straight championship. We will take you to New Zealand ahead of tonight's match against Vietnam. And one giant leap, Virgin Galactic making several firsts for its next mission. We will introduce you to two of the three soon-to-be astronauts selected for the company's first commercial space flight. More on how they got the opportunity to go out of this world. Little spoiler, that includes a mother-daughter duo that are going to be aboard.
Would you want to go to space with your mom?
I don't think so.
Even if it's
My mom would maybe say yes. My mom is such a daredevil, but I don't know. Would you go?
Yeah, of course. It'd be fun. Yeah. It'd be quick, right?
Well, I don't know. We've seen too many like those extreme travel disasters.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll find out later. Good morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Good to have you with us on this Friday.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you so much for spending this Friday morning with us. We're going to begin in Washington with a special counsel investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election continues this morning.
Yeah, former Trump White House aide Will Russell testified yesterday before the federal grand jury that is investigating Trump. This was at least the third time Russell appeared before the grand jury. Earlier this week, special counsel Jack Smith sent Trump a letter informing him that he's a target of that federal investigation. Two attorneys with direct knowledge of the case say Smith is looking at three federal statutes. They include deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., and tampering with a witness. Now, while all this plays out in sealed proceedings in federal court, Trump is blasting the special counsel's case. He's calling the investigation a witch hunt and weaponization of the justice system.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is taking a closer look at the case, and we will get to him in just a moment. But first, we are going to start with the latest in the investigation.
Yeah, NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us with that. John, good morning. So prosecutors spent hours behind closed doors yesterday with former Trump White House aide Will Russell. What do we know about Russell and his latest appearance there?
Yeah, the reason that Will Russell is so important is that he spent a good part of January 6th, the day itself, with Donald Trump. We don't know, obviously, exactly what was said. It is a secret grand jury. But obviously, to bring him back again means that there's something that the prosecutors want to clarify, want to get a chance to ask a little bit more about, or have the grand jury hear a little bit more about. And Russell was an aide that was very close to Trump in the White House and also works on his campaign. So it may be even broader than January 6th, the day itself.
And, John, we're also learning that the special counsel spoke with Trump's former personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and now also the lawyer of former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik, who worked with Giuliani's legal team after the 2020 election, says he may be next to meet with prosecutors. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, what's so important about Rudy Giuliani is that effort after the 2020 election to overturn it. Part of what Jack Smith is looking at as prosecutor is not just, again, the culmination on January 6th, the insurrection at the Capitol, but all of the efforts by Donald Trump to overturn a fairly decided election. So with Giuliani, twice earlier this year, the prosecutors met with his team, or met with him in New York. It was voluntary on Giuliani's part. That allows him to have a lawyer in the room. It also allowed him to do his afternoon radio show. As far as Kerik goes, he's expected to meet with prosecutors sometime in mid-August. And so we'll, of course, have to wait to see what happens with that.
And, John, meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the past is resurfacing. Trump's congressional allies, they're now pushing for the House GOP to expunge his two impeachments. Is there enough House support from the GOP to pass a measure like this?
Yeah, it's a case of if you don't like history, just erase it going on. But it's not clear that they're going to be able to do that. If they had the votes to do it already, they would have done it already. I think mostly there are some members of the Republican conference, not necessarily that would vote against it if push came to shove, but do not want to hold a vote on it. It doesn't help them in general elections back home to vote to try to expunge the impeachment. It doesn't help them in primaries to vote against it. But I think if McCarthy actually had the votes in hand right now, that would already have happened. Now, there's some reporting by other outlets that there was a deal between McCarthy and Donald Trump to have this done on a date certain. And that is something that both camps are saying is not true. Donald Trump, folks around Donald Trump yesterday said that there was no date certain. He's just eager to have it happen. And our Ryan Nobles caught up with Kevin McCarthy yesterday. Take a listen to that.
There's no deal, but I've been very clear from long before when I voted against impeachments that they could do it for purely political purposes. I support expungement, but there's no deal out there.
So McCarthy is against those impeachments still. Not surprising, he hasn't changed his mind on those, but has not yet set a date for trying to overturn or expunge those impeachments. Of course, the Senate would never agree to anything like that. We're talking about basically non-binding resolution.
All right, John, thanks for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it.
Now we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos here with us on set. Hey, Danny, so the federal grand jury has already heard testimony from dozens of witnesses here in this investigation. As we just mentioned, they heard from William Russell, who was with Trump on January 6th. Tell us why that particular person and his particular account of that day is so important.
It's always so hard to forecast what the significance was of a grand jury witness because everything is in such secret. Russell reportedly may have already been testifying before the grand jury on several prior occasions. So really, certainly it's important what he heard and saw on January 6th. But I often find myself wondering, well, when a witness returns to the grand jury, what new questions did they have for him? What did they have to ask him this time around that they may not have asked him the first time around? And it's a lot of conjecture. And really, for the most part, we'll never find out a lot of what goes on in that grand jury room unless the people who are allowed to talk about it, which is a small category, actually come forward and talk about it. But in all likelihood, it's what did he see, hear, smell, feel, everything on that day. And what about it goes to Trump's knowledge and his intent?
So we mentioned this letter, the 3 statutes that were mentioned in the letter. Could he face other charges beyond that? And could people beyond Trump, based on what we know, potentially face charges here as well?
Question 1, yes. Question 2, super yes. Number 1, could there be additional charges? Yes. You might see insurrection, but I rather doubt it. That's something that's easy for a legal analyst like me to come on air and say, yeah, this meets all the elements of insurrection. But if you're a prosecutor and you're staking your professional reputation on taking on the most difficult criminal defendant in American history, then I'm not so sure I want to take on a statute that is rarely used, especially if you're going to have a lot of potential First Amendment defenses. So, yes, I think we might see additional charges. As for additional people, I would almost say you have to. In essence, if you're going to charge Donald Trump, he's somebody who was sort of at the top of this chain and had a lot of people, electors, lawyers, Rudy Giuliani's, doing things beneath him. So if Trump's knowledge and agreement to do some of this stuff makes him criminally liable, I have to imagine the people below him are as well.
All right, Danny Cevallos, thank you so much.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah.
New this morning, weather experts are warning that the hot weather plaguing the northern hemisphere, it could last for months. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, you might know it as NOAA, announced the El Nino climate pattern will likely last until March of next year, leading to higher temperatures throughout the winter. Officials say that means more weather records will be broken in the coming months. It also means more severe weather here in the U.S. Torrential rains continue to drench much of the north and the Midwest. This was the scene on I-90 last night, just outside of Cleveland. And in Georgia, crews are cleaning up the damage created by a powerful storm that brought 60-mile-an-hour winds. The hail was the size of pennies. 350,000 customers lost power at the height of the storm. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has more on the extreme weather that's slamming the country.
We're in the middle of hurricane season, and the water here in Miami is 4 to 6 degrees warmer than it historically would be, which is an outrageous figure, as by air and sea right now, temperature records are being smashed by the day and by the hour.
Record-level temperatures continue to bake the country from California to the southeast.
This is a whole level of different sun.
Phoenix fuming with 21 straight days with at least 110-degree temperatures. In Miami, hitting a record 40 consecutive days of triple-digit heat index.
So how warm is the water right now?
Around here, we're around 91, 92 degrees.
University of Miami climatologist and hurricane expert Brian McNulty says even 1 degree of change in the water temperature makes a difference.
What does this bath water-like temperature in the ocean mean for hurricane season?
Well, I mean, all other things being equal, this is going to enable hurricanes to strengthen a little more efficiently.
The heat, not just dangerous, but sometimes fatal. In Death Valley, a 71-year-old died from possible heat exposure near a trailhead after hiking amid 121-degree temps. While in Houston,
my heart hurts, my chest hurts.
Jonathan Longoria recently suffered a heart attack after mowing his lawn, and his doctor says the heat likely played a role.
Because he then was having an extra load of stress from the heat on his body, in addition to the manual stress, that's what finally tipped him over the edge.
In an exclusive interview, the new CDC director highlighting the emergence of heat officers.
We're seeing for the first time where folks are designating someone as in charge of responding to the heat.
Europe also struggling with the heat wave, with summer travelers packing hotspots. Our Josh Letterman is on the ground in Greece.
Workers here at the Acropolis are walking off the job, refusing to work in 103-degree heat, while west of Athens, a massive fire that has tore through villages and ravaged homes is still raging.
What's making Spain, Italy, and Greece so hot? An anti-cyclone trend from North Africa. Across the globe, a severe weather picture that only continues to worsen.
In terms of what to expect moving forward, the heat index peak for Miami is August the 8th, which is to say things will definitely get worse before they get better, though we are expecting some sort of a break in this dangerous heat sometime next week. In Miami, Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
All right, Sam, thank you so much. That sets us up perfectly for a check on your morning news now weather.
That's right. Michelle Grossman's with us this Friday. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And I think you know what I'm going to say. We are looking at this extreme heat continuing at least for the next week and a half, near future. We're only in July. We still have the summer to go. So we have some time where we're going to see this marathon heat continuing. We continue to break daily records, monthly records. And every dot on this map here showing us where we have so far seen the hottest July temperature ever recorded. So places like Phoenix, Tucson, Austin, Corpus Christi, into portions of the southeast as well, Vero Beach, Fort Myers, Key West. And we're going to see those sizzling temperatures once again. We're going to continue to break more records. I just got a list from what we broke yesterday, and it's a long list. So today, 105 in Austin. We could tie or beat that record of 105. 98 degrees in Jackson, Tallahassee, 99. 96 today in Orlando, and 94 in Key West. So it continues to be sizzling in the south central states into the southeast, and that will continue into the weekend because that heat wave will continue. Houston into the upper 90s. New Orleans, we're going to be in the upper 90s on Saturday, and we're going to be warm too in Tampa Saturday, Sunday, and also Monday. That's the southeast, that's the south central states. The southwest, we are baking. We're looking at temperatures 121 today in Palm Springs, 105 in Boise, 118 in Phoenix. So you can see how far this heat dome expands, all the way from the southwest to the west coast into the Intermountain West. And you guessed it, we're going to see these temperatures continuing throughout the weekend as well. Into Monday, 101 in Salt Lake City, Monday, Farmington, 100 degrees, Phoenix, 114 on Sunday. Same story on Monday, and Palm Springs is just so hot. So 84 million people impacted by heat alert today. Excessive heat warnings in Las Vegas, Phoenix, Monroe, Louisiana, into Jacksonville, Florida. That's the heat story. We're also looking at the chance for storms and flooding. We had some storms come through the Northeast earlier this morning, kind of seeing them move off the coast in the next couple of hours. Then we're going to see a cold front move through. That's going to bring the chance for more storms later on this afternoon. Could see severe weather, too, in portions of the southeast with some really heavy downpours. Now, we're concerned about flooding once again because the ground is so saturated in portions of eastern New York into Vermont from flooding just a week ago. So saturated grounds, high running waterways will cause a chance for some flash flooding. As we go throughout the day, we're looking at more flash flooding. We're also looking at millions, 13 million at risk for the chance for severe storms. Back to you both.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much. We'll see you in a little bit. Sure. Well, turning now to new developments in the Gilgo Beach murders. It's been a week since police arrested a suspect in the killings. Now, law enforcement is expanding their investigation to determine whether the suspect is connected to unsolved cases in other states. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details.
Rex, did you do it? Accused serial killer Rex Heuermann sits in a Long Island jail cell held without bail.
The 3 times that I've visited his housing unit, he was laying on his bunk, was not watching TV. Twice he was sleeping, and once he had his eyes open just looking at the ceiling.
His wife, Asa Ellerup, has filed for divorce, according to her attorney. They were married when investigators say he killed 3 young women and disposed of their bodies on Gilgo Beach over a decade ago. Heuermann pleaded not guilty to the charges. Ellerup's DNA is at the center of the case. The prosecutor says the 59-year-old's hair was found at the crime scene, but she has not been charged. Police believe Ellerup was traveling when Heuermann murdered his victims, according to court documents. Investigators have not stopped since the arrest and are casting a wide net, looking for evidence and possible links to unsolved cases. In Las Vegas, where Heuermann owns property, and at this home in South Carolina, owned by a family member, where authorities seized Heuermann's Chevrolet Avalanche, the car described by a witness all those years ago that was key to cracking the case, according to the DA. And in New Jersey, authorities say they are specifically looking at the 2006 Eastbound Strangler case. The bodies of 4 women who worked in the sex trade were discovered in a drainage ditch. The killer never found.
Our thanks to Stephanie for that reporting.
The U.S. Army has launched an investigation into the actions of Private Travis King. That's the U.S. service member who crossed into North Korea earlier this week. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley reports from the heavily fortified Unification Bridge on the deafening silence coming out of North Korea.
North Korea is once again threatening nuclear escalation, announcing through state media that American arms in South Korea, quote, may fall under the conditions of the use of nuclear weapons. But when it comes to Private Travis King, not a word.
We don't know his condition. We don't know where he's being held. We don't know the status of his health.
I worry about him, frankly.
Christine Wormuth, the Secretary of the Army, told NBC's Courtney Kuby that the U.S. is trying to reach the North Koreans through the United Nations.
I don't think that we have successfully made contact.
King, who finished high school 3 years ago in Racine, Wisconsin, had legal trouble while serving in South Korea. Just before he fled to North Korea, King spent nearly 2 months in a South Korean prison after declining to pay a fine for damaging a police car, according to a court document. Past instances of Americans in North Korea don't bode well for King. In 2016, Otto Warmbier, an American student, was detained in North Korea for more than a year. He was released to the U.S. in a vegetative state and died shortly after. Warmbier's father now worried for King.
He willingly ran across the border. That makes him quite a bit different from your son.
Absolutely. But now that he's there, the facts are exactly the same. They're going to hold him hostage, and they're going to use him as a political prisoner.
Now the Biden administration must decide how to help a soldier who, officials say, willfully created a crisis. Matt Bradley, NBC News, South Korea.
There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, not so safe space. Online watchdogs sounding the alarm on an app made for kids. How they say some users are being tricked into sending sexually explicit pictures.
But first, an NBC News exclusive, the CDC's new director getting candid about the challenges ahead. We'll be right back. We are back now with an NBC News exclusive. New CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen gives her first sit-down interview since taking over the job earlier this month. And as NBC News medical reporter Erica Edwards explains, Cohen is taking the reins during a time when Americans' trust in the CDC is at an all-time low.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, once considered the gold standard of public health, finds itself at a crossroads.
It's time for a new chapter.
Trust in the CDC plummeted during the height of the pandemic. Presidential candidates continue to slam the agency.
We've seen over the past few years really the bankruptcy of the public health establishment.
From both sides of the aisle.
The CDC, the World Health Organization, the National Academy of Sciences
are captive agencies.
Vaccine misinformation, surges in drug overdoses, unprecedented gun deaths, all considered major issues the CDC must tackle, even amid a proposed funding cut of more than $1 billion. This is what Dr. Mandy Cohen faces as she takes the helm of the agency.
Why did you want this job?
I have dedicated my career to making impact in the health space. And so when an opportunity to lead an agency whose mission is to protect the health of this country and really the world, that was an easy answer. It was yes.
First on her long list of goals, rebuilding credibility lost because of some CDC missteps during the pandemic.
If we want to protect the health of every American, we have to first make sure that we are building trust with the American people. And I know some of that trust was lost in the last few years. But I'm here to refocus the organization on building that trust.
How will you do that differently, though, from your predecessors? Is that engaging press briefings more? How will you get that message out to people who really need to hear that?
Well, first, it starts with the whole team at CDC. Trust is not just built with me doing something different. It's all of us being different. And at my first all-hands meeting here at CDC last week, the first thing we talked about was trust.
And Cohen might just be able to do it because of her experience speaking to the public and politicians. As Health Secretary of North Carolina, Cohen, a Democrat, helped convince conservatives to expand Medicaid in the state. And she was the face of daily state-run COVID briefings.
Do you know your 3 W's? Wear, wait, wash?
Whose down-to-earth guidance was met with little political pushback.
Those are going to be really important skills as you face budget cuts. How are you going to handle that moving forward with Washington?
I want to make sure that they know me, how I operate, how we can work together. I want to make sure I know what's on their mind because, look, they're the ones that are investing behind the CDC.
On Wednesday, Cohen was on Capitol Hill meeting with both Democrats and Republicans.
This is a bipartisan issue to make sure that our country is safe and protected.
Beyond politics, she's facing the very real impact of climate change on Americans' health, from extreme heat to air pollution from wildfires, even threatening to add new viruses to the mix, which Cohen says the CDC is tracking closely.
Look, we saw for the first time a few cases of domestically acquired malaria, which we hadn't seen in 20 years.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned should Americans be about malaria?
You should not be concerned at all. So right now, you should not be concerned at all. I'm worrying about it for you.
But that's not all that worries Cohen.
What do you think is the biggest threat to public health right now that we face?
The thing that I am most worried about is this broken trust. For us to be strong as a nation, we need to make sure that we trust each other. And that's about public health, but it's about so much more than that. Unfortunately, in the United States, life expectancy is actually going down. You know, for such a rich and prosperous country, for our life expectancy to be going down, we really need to take a hard look to say, like, well, how can we do better?
For Cohen, doing better starts with her new coworkers, even as she's still learning her way around the building.
Sometimes I'll just go to a random floor in one of the buildings and I'll just wander around and pop into a meeting.
Her very first day on the job, greeting employees at the door with Alicia Keys songs playing in the background, all part of her plan to get the CDC on board with her goals.
One of my values that I bring here to work is joy, right? We want to have joy at work. And that's not just about parties and celebrations, but it's about connecting with the mission. But you need to have a little fun at work in order to bring your A game. I really think the American people deserve everyone's A game. They deserve my best, and they deserve the best from this agency.
Great interview there by our Erica Edwards. Well, Cohen also says the CDC can't work alone when it comes to dealing with mental health across the country. She says it has to be a collaborative effort between health officials, doctors, as well as families.
International headlines now. The U.S. is targeting Russia with tough new sanctions.
NBC News foreign correspondent Ralph Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with that and other world news. Hey, Ralph, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Yeah, these latest U.S. sanctions are designed to cut off Russia's access to battlefield supplies. The measures target around 120 people in firms, mostly in Russia, but some also in the UAE and Kyrgyzstan. Many of them are involved in mining or electronic engineering, and the U.S. says more sanctions are still to come. In India, rescue efforts are continuing this morning after a deadly mudslide overnight that killed 16 people. The disaster in the western state of Maharashtra was triggered by torrential rainfall, and the continuing rain is hampering rescue efforts and making it more difficult to reach the wounded. And finally, 5 whale sharks were rescued by a group of divers after they were found trapped in fishing nets in ocean waters off Indonesia. Underwater footage shows the divers pulling away the nets and gently guiding the whale sharks in the right direction, allowing them to swim away freely. So guys, respect to those divers for getting so close to such big sharks to rescue them.
Yeah, no kidding. A little bit scary there, but good for them.
Definitely.
Right. Thanks, Raph. Appreciate it. Its official title is the North American Aerospace Defense Command. You may know it better as NORAD, the group that tracks Santa around Christmas. But it actually has some much more important responsibilities, keeping our seas and our skies safe from any potential enemy attacks. NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt got a behind-the-scenes look at some of the challenges the organization has recently faced.
Longitude 181.6.
We were granted rare access inside NORAD's Joint Operations Center, where potential air and maritime threats to the U.S. and Canada are tracked and analyzed.
We're just checking his origin, and we get that from FAA.
Whether a civilian plane entering restricted airspace, as in this exercise, a ballistic missile launch, an unwelcome visitor over the Arctic, or a high-altitude balloon.
You believe 100% it was a Chinese spy vehicle?
Absolutely, it was a Chinese spy, a balloon.
Nearly 6 months after the balloon drama that captivated the country, NORAD Commander General Glenn Van Herk sat down with me to talk about the decision-making that led to the balloon's ultimate destruction. It was set in motion days earlier in a high-stakes mission to intercept it over Alaska.
We sent a package that included F-22s and F-16s, along with a support package of a E-3 AWACS aircraft with tanker support.
Did you know what its mission was?
We had worked with the intelligence community, and we had a good idea of what the mission actually was going to be. Once we intercepted the high-altitude balloon just off the coast of Alaska, I made the assessment that it didn't demonstrate hostile intent.
The balloon briefly sailed over Canada and then back into the U.S. and toward sensitive military sites.
There was obviously a great political debate over the timing of the shoot down. From your military perspective, did things go in the order they should have?
The president directed us to shoot it down safely, and we shot it down safely at the place and time of our choosing.
He gave you the discretion to decide where that safe place was?
We decided, based on his direction, when to shoot it down.
The balloon was shot down off the South Carolina coast.
They just shot it.
But not before the military says it collected its share of intel, too.
What I would stress to you, Lester, is that this turned out, I think, the best it could for our nation. We know that no American people were injured. We maintained the safety. We know for a fact that we mitigated their collection and we maximized our collection.
The balloon episode, a far cry from the Cold War image of NORAD when the threat of a Soviet nuclear strike was the primary concern. Its iconic command post burrowed deep inside Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain and depicted in the movie War Games, now an alternate joint ops center with U.S. and Canadian operators standing watch.
It's daunting. It's a little bit high stress. It's a very busy environment, but we train to that.
This mountain complex was engineered to withstand a direct nuclear attack, and integral to that are a series of blast doors, 3 feet thick. The last time they were closed operationally was on 9/11.
It's all self-sustained with internal water, electricity, and food.
The Chinese balloon was determined not to be hostile, but it joins a list of growing threats, from hypersonic missiles to cyber, that NORAD is racing to stay ahead of.
Are you able to see the things that you need to be seeing right now in terms of potential threats?
Well, I would say that I can't see everything that I would like to see as far away from the homeland as we need to see it.
He's asked Congress for more over-the-horizon radar. And why it all matters? A memorial to 9/11 that sits outside NORAD headquarters provides the answer.
Everybody that comes in walks past this and reminds us of our solemn duty of defending our homeland.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for that report. And the general who Lester spoke with told him that U.S. surveillance capabilities have been strengthened with new technology as a result of the spy balloon episode.
Coming up, Team USA going for a three-peat at the Women's World Cup.
When we come back, we're going to take you to New Zealand for all the excitement before their first match tonight. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back with a major shakeup in the NFL. The league's team owners unanimously voted to sell the Washington Commanders for just over $6 billion. The team will now belong to a group led by businessman Josh Harris and NBA Hall of Famer Magic Johnson. Both will now be co-owners of the team. The sale was first announced in May, but needed to be in compliance with NFL guidelines before it was finalized. The sale of the Commanders also marks the end of the Snyder reign in Washington. Dan Snyder led the team for 24 seasons, but certainly not without scandal. He was at the center of several investigations related to sexual harassment, financial impropriety, and creating a toxic workplace culture within the team. Yesterday, the NFL fined Snyder $60 million for the sexual harassment allegations. That's the largest penalty ever levied against an NFL team.
Well, now let's turn our attention to soccer and the Women's World Cup in New Zealand.
Team USA begins the defense of its title tonight against Vietnam in Auckland. NBC News foreign correspondent Molly Hunter is there for us now. So, Molly, we know Team USA is the strong favorite against Vietnam tonight. I don't want to jinx anything, so what can we expect? How's the team looking?
Joe, I hope you are crossing both your fingers and all of your toes under that table right now. We are not jinxing. So, of course, it's late at night, Friday night. They play Saturday local time. And just to be clear, of course, the U.S. is a pretty strong favorite over many of the other 31 teams in this tournament. Vietnam, of course, one of the 8 countries making their debut in the World Cup. And we actually went to a press conference earlier today, a match day -1 press conference, which is going to be kind of a frequent thing as the tournament goes on. And one of the Vietnamese journalists actually asked the coach, the U.S. coach, Vlatko Andonovski, is the U.S. just going to crush us? And very respectfully, both the coach, Vlatko, and Lindsey Horan, one of the co-captains, really said, look, we respect all of our opponents. And the thing about being the U.S. and being the #1 ranked is that every team brings their top game when they play the U.S. Take a listen to what else Lindsey said.
Everyone is more than prepared. The staff has prepared us for every single moment in this World Cup and this first game. And the #1 thing is go out there and enjoy it and rely on every bit of preparation that we've done. That's my main goal going into this first game.
And I think both Lindsey and Vlatko really interestingly also talked about how really this is the most competitive Women's World Cup to date, that all of the teams have really closed that gap between the U.S. And everyone else. Guys.
Okay, Molly, it's pretty late night over there, and it's busy behind you. How much fun are you having? Just tell us about the atmosphere and how excited U.S. fans are.
It's Friday night in Auckland, Savannah. We are having fun. We are hoping that none of the revelers come over to our live shot. But earlier tonight, we were actually at a bar with a ton of American fans. Of course, you guys, I am on the other side of the world. Take a quick listen to a couple of very dedicated U.S. soccer fans. Was it a big decision to come halfway across the world?
No.
No, absolutely not.
I've been saving for 4 years to be able to come back here. This is I got back to work after France. I got back to work. I looked at my boss, who happens to be in soccer also, and said, I'm taking a month off in 4 years, just so you know.
When I was growing up, it was the sport that everyone made fun of. So, and now you're starting to see 70,000 people at games, 70+ thousand and 80. Like, it's growing. It's not just Europe sport. It's not just this is the sport of the future, and it's so exciting to see for someone who played for 17 years, who loves the sport and travels. Obviously, we all love it, so it's just exciting to see it get the respect it deserves.
And guys, we will be at the game tomorrow inside the stadium, so I will have a full report for you guys on Monday, just how many American fans and how much red, white, and blue actually made it out to Auckland.
And Molly, we should note there have been some other games today. What are some of the results we're seeing so far?
There have been. I'm just going to look down to make sure I don't get these wrong. So Switzerland 2-0 over the Philippines. The Philippines is one of the 8 teams making their World Cup debut. Nigeria and Canada, really good game, 0-0. And that's actually one of the games that has made everyone talk here today about just how competitive some of the maybe typically historically non-favorited teams are actually showing up with really strong teams here in Auckland and Australia. And then Spain 3-0 over Costa Rica. That was also a really exciting game. But you know, we can't help but be very, very excited, of course, for the U.S. game. Local time here tomorrow, Saturday afternoon. But, guys, 9 o'clock East Coast time. Get excited.
We know
late night for some soccer fans here.
So cool you're going to be there. And great interview, by the way, with Alex Morgan, also of Team USA. Good to see you, Molly. Have fun.
And men's soccer, a certain superstar is about to make his debut in America tonight. Argentina's Lionel Messi expected to play his first game with his new MLS team, Inter Miami, in the Leagues Cup tournament. Inter Miami says the game, which is being held in Fort Lauderdale, it's sold out. No surprise there. Messi officially joined from French giant PSG earlier this month. Coming up, a Happy Meal worth much more than a few bucks.
When we return, we will tell you about the lawsuit over a McNugget that just cost McDonald's hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is next on Morning News Now.
We're back with a warning for parents. Child safety watchdogs are sounding the alarm on a social networking app. They say it's being used to extort users by tricking them into sending sexually explicit photos.
Yeah, the app is called Wiz and advertises itself as a safe space to meet new friends and allows kids as young as 13 to join like many other social media apps. In a statement to NBC News about the accusations, the app said, quote, Wiz understands parents' concerns about their teenagers' online safety. We are committed to providing a safe platform for everyone, including young adults and teenagers. But we're going to get into some of what we're hearing about this. Joining us now to discuss is former Secret Service agent and national security journalist Evie Pompouris, author also of Becoming Bulletproof, Life Lessons from a Secret Service Agent. It is always so great to have you with us, especially, unfortunately, on a topic like this, but we know you have an expertise here. So this app, Wiz, I know it's quite popular, been in and out of the top 10 on Apple in terms of app downloads. So what are the safety and security concerns here that are different from other apps that a lot of teenagers are on?
Okay, so first, it's an app, it's a French app. So when there's safety issues, they don't have to report them here in the United States. So that's one thing. We don't really know what the safety issues are as far as vulnerability for kids. The second thing is there are no parental controls that we know of for a parent to be able to monitor this app. It makes it very vulnerable. The other thing is it's a chat-friendly app, so it's targeted for young teens, young adults. They go online, and you have users as young as 13 years of age using this app. You can text, you can leave voice messages, you can send photos. And here's where the problem comes in. With the photos, they will engage people, and someone will convince them, send me a photo of yourself, usually sexually explicit photos. These young people are very trusting. They send the photo, and then there's something called sextortion, where the person will say, I have this photo of you. If you don't send me X amount of dollars, I will release this photo.
I want to take a look at a pretty startling stat here.
Yeah.
According to the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, in the last 6 months, 90% of reports involving Wiz were related to the alleged sextortion of young people. Now, you mentioned this is a French app, so it doesn't have to report child safety issues to U.S. authorities. Is that, you think, one of the reasons we're seeing an increase in these incidents in the app? And just what's your top advice to parents whose kids might have this on their phone?
Parents are not going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say this. I will tell you, anybody under the age of 16, they really shouldn't have a phone. I know that's not reality for many parents. So I will tell you this. Go through your children's phones. You must. There is no privacy. If your child says, Mom, Dad, you don't trust me, it has nothing to do with trust. These individuals who do this are very sophisticated. It's also not one person. It's multiple people, and this is what they do. And many of them are overseas. So even if we figure out who, where, we can do nothing about it. Parents, stay on top of it. Go through your kid's phone. The other thing is talk to your children so that way, one, advise them not to do something like this, but then also if they do something like this, make them feel that they can come to you. A lot of kids are very afraid to tell their parents. So that stat you gave me, I will put money down that number is a lot higher because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there just afraid to say something, especially young teenagers.
I think they're going to get in trouble or something like that, and they don't want to talk about it. So I know you just mentioned, the idea of not even having a phone till 16 or watching it, but specifically if a parent realizes that this app is on their kid's phone, it seems they're engaging in it, what would you recommend?
Delete. So this app is a chat app to make friends. And so what happens is they're on there, and the whole purpose of the app is to meet people, to engage, to talk. It tells you, too, the advertisement, build confidence, make friends. Let them make friends in real life. You wouldn't drop your kid in the middle of Times Square to meet random people. Think of the app the same way. Delete these chat-friendly apps. They're super dangerous and vulnerable if your child is going to have a phone.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us break this down. We really appreciate it. Evie Pompouris, appreciate your expertise.
Thank you. Well, a South Florida McDonald's is being forced to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to the family of a young child who suffered second-degree burns from a McNugget. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber has the details.
A Happy Meal now costing McDonald's $800,000 after a Miami area jury awarded the massive sum to the family of a child who was severely burnt by a chicken nugget.
I'm actually just happy that, they listened to Olivia's voice and the jury was able to decide a fair judgment. I'm happy with that.
Video from 2019 shows then 4-year-old Olivia Caraballo in the back seat of her mother's car as they left the McDonald's drive-thru when a nugget fell on her leg. Olivia's mother describing the horror to NBC South Florida station when they first filed the lawsuit 4 years ago.
I hear a scream and I turn around and it's my daughter, and wedged in between the seatbelt, because it's like a 5-point harness there, is a chicken nugget that I wasn't able to reach.
Those screams playing out in court for the jury. At a trial in May, lawyers for Olivia's family argued the temperature of the nugget was above 200 degrees, but the defense said it was not more than 160 degrees. The jury delivering a split verdict finding McDonald's and Upchurch Foods failed to put warnings on the food, but were not negligent for causing the burns.
Last week, July 10th of this year, the scar is still there.
As for Olivia, 4 years later, she still has a scar on her leg. Neither McDonald's nor Upchurch Foods has responded to our request for comment. But in court, one of their attorneys argued that the child did not suffer long-term injuries.
Olivia is not disabled as a result of this incident. The scar itself doesn't prevent Olivia from going about her day-to-day activities.
This is not the first time McDonald's has faced legal action over burns from their products.
McDonald's will appeal a big verdict in the case of the spilled coffee.
In the 1990s, one case made international headlines when 79-year-old Stella Liebeck suffered third-degree burns and spent 3 weeks in the hospital after a McDonald's hot coffee spilled on her lap.
I screamed, not realizing I was burned that bad. I knew I was in terrible pain.
She originally requested $20,000 to cover medical bills, but the case went to a trial, and a New Mexico jury awarded her $2.7 million.
Wow. Our thanks to Ellis and Barbara for that report. Well, it took the jury just over 2 hours to decide how much the family should get for Olivia's pain and suffering.
Now to some financial news. If you're going to see Barbie or Oppenheimer this weekend, those nice seats won't cost you any extra at AMC theaters after all.
Yeah, if you can get one, though, because these movies are sold out. CNBC's Silvana now joins us with that and other financial news. Hey, Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Good morning. Yeah, good luck getting seats, right? All right. Well, AMC is dropping plans to charge more for the best seats in the theater. The company says test of the pricing plan will end soon, and it won't introduce the plan nationwide. AMC says it found more than 75% of people who previously bought tickets in preferred seating sections chose to sit there even at a slightly higher price. More than 10% of people bought tickets outside the preferred areas at no additional charge, and there was no change for those who bought front row seats, which cost less. AMC will instead try to attract customers to the front row by investing in better seats. Meanwhile, Walmart will offer sensory-friendly shopping hours on weekends from now through August for those who are sensitive to bright lights. Walmart will dim store lights every Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m., and most stores will also turn off their radios and display static images on TV sets. Other businesses also offer options for those with sensory disabilities. AMC regularly has sensory-friendly screenings, and Chuck E. Cheese has sensory-sensitive Sundays with early openings and dimmed lighting. And Popeyes is now selling a version of the girl dinner trend that's gone viral on TikTok. It includes a variety of sides that constitute a full meal, including mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, Cajun fries, coleslaw, biscuits, and red beans and rice. And unlike a traditional combo meal, this promotion consists of side dishes that have to be ordered individually. It's only available on Popeye's website, and prices vary based on the number of sides you order, guys. I still want the chicken, though.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes against the whole idea.
Yeah,
it's
right.
like what you have in your fridge, not like head to Popeyes for all the sides.
Exactly.
But, you know, they're trying to get it on the trend.
I think it's going to work. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, Silvana, thank you so much.
Thank you. Coming up, they are about to make history in space.
When we come back, we're going to introduce you to two of Virgin Galactic's very first space tourism flight crew. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. Remember last year when NASA successfully knocked an asteroid off its path with a spacecraft? Well, thanks to the Hubble telescope, we're learning new details about that historic collision and what's been happening to the asteroid ever since. New images show a swarm of 37 boulders around the asteroid, ranging from 3 feet to more than 20 feet across. The boulders are now slowly drifting away in space. They're part of 1,000 tons of material that was released when the spacecraft crashed into the asteroid in September. Scientists now hope to use this same technique to block the path of asteroids in the future. Heaven forbid one ever comes for us.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
It's just so cool, though. I mean, amazing.
Now we know. There you go.
Feat. All right. Well, in just a matter of weeks, 4 people will embark on a mission that is out of this world. They are part of Virgin Galactic's first ever private astronaut mission, dubbed Galactic 02.
The launch of the 90-minute flight is scheduled for August 10th in New Mexico. It's going to include several space firsts. We're going to break those down in a moment. The shuttle trip to space will be led by astronaut Beth Moses.
We are now joined by 2 of the 3 future Virgin Galactic astronauts, Keisha Shahaf and John Goodwin. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, first of all, how cool is that? Soon to be astronauts on with us. Very exciting. Keisha, I will start with you and also mention that the third person on this crew who's also will be an astronaut, your daughter, you two will become the first ever mother-daughter duo in space, which is awesome. I know that you were the winner of a lottery, excuse me, to be part of this. Virgin Galactic founder Richard Branson actually surprised you in person to announce you won. Just tell us about this whole experience so far, from that to what you're doing to get ready for this.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm so thrilled. It's just such an amazing experience so far, from starting off having this amazing dream since as a child wanting to go to space, and then seeing an opportunity, seeing a sweepstake, and I said, let me just take this chance, and then I just applied for it on Amaze, and suddenly I found myself as a winner with Richard Branson and his entire team coming into my house saying, you're a winner. So like, even up to today, I'm still in awe. Just like, I really don't have words for this miracle, this amazing adventure that's about to happen. So I'm just so thrilled. And the whole journey, just from training and just from meeting so many amazing staff from Virgin Galactic, is just, wow, it's beyond a dream come true. I never thought it would have been this spectacular.
I bet you were seeing Richard Branson come to your door. You're like, well, there's only one reason why he's here. I know what's coming to this.
It's so fun. What an amazing. Look at you. I love how excited you are. It's adorable.
John, I want to bring you in here. So here are your first. You're the first Olympian to travel to space. You actually competed in the 1972 Summer Games. You're also going to be the second person with Parkinson's to fly out of this world. How excited are you? What are some of the reactions you've heard from people you know?
I'm extremely excited. I've waited 18 years for this to happen. I signed up in September 2005. At that time, I didn't have Parkinson's. I contacted Parkinson's 9 years ago, and I thought that was going to be the end of them saying I wouldn't be able to go. But knowing Richard Branson, he came up with the right answer. They're very happy for me to be the first commercial passenger into space.
And any nerves here? Just tell us kind of how you're feeling as you get ready. And also, it's pretty neat. You know, some of these that we've seen from other commercial space tourism companies that are launching now, they're these kind of quick up and downs. But 90 minutes, that's pretty awesome. Just how are you feeling about getting ready for this, John?
Yes, I'm obviously nervous about it. It would be wrong if I wasn't. But I'm also extremely excited that eventually I've managed to get into space.
Keisha, we have a little over a minute here. Just how are you and your daughter actually preparing for this flight now just a few weeks away? What's some of the training you're doing?
So first of all, I'm just super excited to be making history for my country and to be on this adventure with my daughter, just this bonding adventure. And preparations for going into space has just been amazing. Just the training I've been getting with Virgin Galactic and their readiness training, and with Space for Humanity and Citizens Astronaut training as well. That has been just going spectacular, and including my own mindfulness training using the Aura app that was recommended, and just preparing myself every day, practicing my yoga, practicing my grounding, walking and going on hikes, going to the beach. It's just all fantastic.
You're going to have to soak up every one of those 90 minutes up there. Just take it all in every second.
It is cool that going through all this, you're getting 90 minutes. You know what I mean? Not just the quick, like, little up and
2
down.
minutes, you're up and down.
Yeah, like we've seen, from other companies. Well, Keisha and John, and also, of course, your gorgeous daughter, good luck to all of you. Enjoy, and congratulations. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having us. Have a great day.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now. Stay with us. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on a Friday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, sweltering seas. In Europe, hospitals are bracing for what they're calling a week of hell. Well, in America, record-breaking heat is blasting both coasts from California to Florida. We're now learning one popular cool-off spot is also feeling the burn, why experts say warming waters could cause major problems on the coast. Plus, the new CDC director sits down for a one-on-one about how a combination of high temperature and poor air quality is taking a toll on our bodies this summer. In the hot seat, former President Donald Trump is blasting the special counsel as a former Trump White House aide appears before a federal grand jury. What we've learned about that testimony and the effort by some congressional Republicans to expunge the former president's 2 impeachments. Countdown to kickoff. We are just hours away from Team USA's first game in the Women's World Cup, and the country is buzzing. We are live ahead of the big showdown, plus the game in America that has the world watching as Lionel Messi prepares to make his debut with an MLS team. And Barbenheimer weekend is here. It is one of Hollywood's most anticipated debuts as 2 major blockbusters hit the theaters on the same day. We're diving into the reviews for both Barbie and Oppenheimer, as well as some other great movies and shows out this weekend in our can't miss list. You know, those 2 movies couldn't be any different, but yet they are tied together, it seems, in this moment in time.
Barbenheimer land doing some stories this week. It really is pretty incredible. I mean, the reviews, positive.
Very good, yes.
Very exciting, and it's just interesting how different they are, but how many people want to see both.
Exactly. We'll break them down in just a little bit. We are going to begin this hour, though, with the aftermath of the extreme weather that is sweeping the country.
That's right. Here you can see just some of the damage left behind in Calhoun, Georgia. Strong storms moved through the state last night, destroying homes and buildings in its path. Meanwhile, officials in North Carolina are beginning to clear out the debris from the EF3 tornado that touched down on Wednesday. Initial reports show at least 13 people were injured and 89 structures were damaged. There's more heat in the south, where many are desperately seeking refuge from the sun. But new reports this morning show even temperatures in the ocean are reaching record highs. We have a closer look at how this heat wave is impacting the world. And of course, we have meteorologist Michelle Grossman for more on what to expect here in the States over the weekend. First, we're going to get started in Galveston, Texas, where NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest on these record-breaking temperatures in the South. Hey, Priscilla, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. I just stuck a thermometer in the water here, and already it's reading at 84.2 degrees. You can imagine how hot that is going to feel as the temperatures here soar into the 90s. They're going to feel more like 108 degrees today, and the National Weather Service is saying that this southern heat streak could continue until August. Overwhelming heat, setting new records from California.
It feels hot.
To Florida, where Miami has now hit 40 consecutive days of a triple-digit heat index.
It's sticky and hot and awful and kind of hell-like.
The unprecedented heat due in part to sweltering sea temperatures. University of Miami sea rise expert Brian McNulty telling our Sam Brock those warm waters could cause hurricanes to strengthen more rapidly than normal.
You're more prone to get a rapid intensification, you know, where hurricanes can go from some intensity and very quickly become a lot stronger.
The staggering heat is especially dangerous for the elderly and very young. In Harlingen, Texas, a dramatic moment to save a baby accidentally locked inside a hot car. While in Phoenix, where temperatures have hit at least 110 for more than 3 straight weeks, some say staying indoors for so long is taking a toll on their mental health.
It's very depressing because it's like a ghost town and you don't see anybody anywhere.
In an exclusive interview with NBC News, the new CDC director highlighting the emergence of heat officers in local governments.
We're seeing for the first time where folks are designating someone as in charge of responding to the heat.
And for those who have no choice but to work outside, one construction company in North Texas has some of its employees wearing sensors to send an alert if they start to overheat.
And it'll alert me ahead of time, like, you still feel fine, but you're in danger of overheating, let's take a break.
A new safety system that could become more common on a rapidly warming planet.
And heading into another hot weekend, especially with the water being so warm in some areas, some folks may think they'll have a cold beer or a frozen margarita to beat the heat. But if you are outside in these temperatures and drinking, health experts saying that is never a good mix. It can lead to dehydration. So folks who are heading out need to make sure that they're drinking tons of water amid these just blistering hot temperatures. Savannah, Joe.
All right, Priscilla, thank you so much. Stay cool.
Let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather.
Means Michelle Grossman is back with us to tell us what we need to know. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And on this Friday, we're going to see that heat continuing. We're going to see the chance for some flooding in spots. And we're also looking at the chance for severe storms. We already saw severe storms moving through the Northeast earlier today. This is what it looks like for today, that western heat wave continuing. It's not just the West Coast. It's not just the Southwest. It's into the Intermountain West. Hot and humid in the South Central states. And in the Southeast, we're going to be into the 90s once again. You factor in that humidity, it's going to feel like over 100 degrees in many spots. The Southeast, once again, being a target for severe storms. That could be with some hail, some damaging winds, also the chance of a tornado or two. And then we have a cold front, too, the northern part of the cold front moving through the Northeast later on today. We had some storms earlier. That was just the first round. Then we have the chance for some pop-up storms. And then once that cold front moves through, we're going to see the chance for more storms. That could prompt some flooding in really saturated grounds. But the good news is, and we do have some good news that I'd like to report, we're looking at tomorrow and Sunday in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, a really nice beach weekend. So that leads us to the weekend. We'll start with the strong storms in the Gulf Coast states, really heavy downpours. We could see some flooding there as well. And then that enduring heat once again in the west, very hot in the Intermountain West, temperatures approaching 100 degrees, some spots over 100 degrees. And then, as I mentioned, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, really looking really pretty. That cold front's going to swing through. That's going to bring in some cooler air. It's going to drop that humidity. So finally, a nice weekend. That will continue into Sunday, but those downpours do continue in the Gulf Coast states, also the Carolinas, parts of the Southeast. Unfortunately, it's not going to take down the temperatures. We're still looking at high temperatures, high humidity in the Southeast. The record highs, no break in the Southwest, into the West, the Intermountain West, because we're looking at temperatures once again into the triple digits. Notice we start to warm it back up in the northern plains. Also, the plains, we're looking at temperatures in the 90s. The Great Lakes looking good, although we have some rain in the forecast for portions of the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley. Let's start with that dangerous heat because it just goes on and on. 84 million Americans under a heat alert this morning. These are through Monday, so we're going through the weekend with these. We have an excessive heat warnings through Las Vegas, Pasadena, Phoenix. We also have Monroe, Louisiana, into the Southeast. So Jacksonville, you're under an excessive heat warning as well. We have heat advisories. They're into the Intermountain West. Boise, you're going to be hot today. South Central states, also the Southeast, with that humidity combining in. We're going to be over 100 degrees or feeling like over 100 degrees. Breaking record once again. It happens day after day. 105 today in Austin. That could tie, or you could beat your record today of 105. 96 in Orlando. So all those park goers sweating it out today. 94 in Key West. And once again, we're going to see this continuing throughout the weekend. Notice Houston near 100 degrees on Sunday and also Monday. Records continue to shatter. We break records, so many records. I just saw a list and it's like so many cities in the Southwest. Palm Springs today, 121. That will most likely break your record of 120 degrees. 105 today in Boise, 113 in Redding. And those records will continue to be broken as we head throughout the early part of next week and probably beyond because it is just July. Severe weather threat, 13 million people at risk. We're looking at the chance for some strong storms in portions of New England into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. But it's the Southeast where we could see some severe weather later on today once we get that daytime heating going. Winds gusting to 60 miles per hour, some hail, a tornado is possible, especially where you see that yellow shading. So Atlanta, Montgomery, just east of Little Rock, you could see some very strong storms. That's going to continue into Saturday. I was talking about those downpours in the Gulf Coast states. So we have rounds of storms moving through tomorrow. That could bring some really gusty winds, also some hail, but really heavy downpours. We do have a low tornado risk tomorrow, but not zero. So we're going to continue to watch that as we head throughout our Saturday. Notice all this rainfall, heavy rainfall in the Gulf Coast states, parts of the southeast. The bright colors indicating where we expect the heaviest rain to fall. So near Mobile, Alabama, just along the Gulf Coast into parts of the Carolinas. Charleston, it looks like you're going to have some rain as well. And then we'll head it up to the northeast. And this is mainly through later today as we're looking at that cold front moving through. And we could see quite a bit of rain with any of these storms, 3 inches or greater. New England, you're going to hold on to those storms, showers a little bit longer tomorrow and then clear it out nicely on Sunday. So here's that setup. It's a long-reaching cold front. It's stretching from New England all the way down to the south. So heavy rain may lead to flooding in New England, more showers and storms likely in the Tennessee Valley, and then we're going to clear it out. You guys, we're looking at a really nice weekend. Not to be selfish in the Northeast, but we've had some bad weekends. So we're going to have a really nice weekend this weekend in terms of our weather.
We'll take it.
A little bit of good news among all that,
A little bit.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So the combined effects of high temperature and poor air quality this summer, they're taking a toll on our bodies. One study from the American Thoracic Society found that exposure to both of those extremes together actually increases the risk of early mortality. NBC News medical reporter Erica Edwards has more.
Nearly a third of the U.S. population living in areas with heat advisories.
Today, it was 128.
But pair these record-breaking heat waves with record-setting wildfires in Canada. At one point, New York City with the worst air quality in the world.
Outside right now, a picture that is simply otherworldly.
It's making many Americans struggle to catch their breath.
It's definitely a point of concern to have a combination of poor air quality and intense heat.
The risk of early death increases by 21% on days with extreme heat and air pollution, according to a 2022 study. So what exactly happens to your body when it's hit with both? Besides dehydration, heat takes a toll on your heart. Blood vessels get smaller and decrease the flow of oxygenated blood to your tissues and organs. To compensate, your heart starts beating faster, pushing your blood pressure up. Add in poor air quality.
There's a heat dome effect. There's less movement of the air out of the system.
Take your respiratory system, for example. Your respiratory mucosal cells line your airways. Normally, they make a barrier protecting the body from inhaling toxins. As the air gets more polluted, your body's ability to regenerate that protective barrier simply can't keep up. And wildfire smoke with particles smaller than a speck of dust can easily get through your respiratory system.
It can get trapped and not come out. And that's where it can get absorbed into your body and cause more havoc in the system.
So what can you do to protect yourself? Drink water, wear lightweight, loose-fitting clothes, try to avoid physical activity in the middle of the day, and keep track of the air quality.
It is certainly going to affect all of us, whether we have an underlying diagnosis or not.
Erica Edwards, NBC News.
Well, we are not the only ones struggling through a heat wave. Europe is continuing to battle the effects of extreme weather this summer. Officials say temperatures are expected to go up, leaving locals and tourists struggling to find relief from the blazing sun. Let's bring in NBC News foreign correspondent Josh Letterman. He is in Greece for more on this. He's somewhere outside of Athens, which is where we have been seeing these wildfires. Josh, good morning. So I know that these have slowly been contained since yesterday, but new outbreaks are still possible. Give us the latest here. What are you seeing and hearing on the ground in terms of these fires?
Yeah, that's right, Savannah. Essentially, firefighters here in Greece are playing a game of whack-a-mole because there have been dozens of fires that have been burning in the recent days. And as soon as they get one under control, they move on to a next one. The heat picks up, or the wind picks up even more problematically, and all of a sudden, an area that had been previously burned is suddenly once again in flames. Just behind me, it looks pretty calm right now, but this area right over here, about half an hour ago, there were flames leaping up from the tops of the trees, and then we've seen every 5 minutes or so helicopters coming, dumping water on top of the trees. They've seemed to have been able to contain this fire for now and have moved on to some of the other dozens of fires raging. But we've also been driving around this region and seeing the wreckage from all of these fires resulting from this extreme heat. Burnt out homes, a completely charred chemical factory, as well as the remnants of cars and motorcycles that now look like they've gone through a barbecue. It is just a dystopian expanse of burnt trees, so little left in some of these areas, and so much more fear for additional destruction as these fires just keep popping up.
Oh, wow, and such a juxtaposition of this beautiful background that we see of yours right now, even though you said that there were just those flames, which luckily they've gotten a little bit under control. I also do want to ask you about a few other areas in Europe, Josh, while we have you, talking first about Italy. That heat wave we've been talking about all week, it's leading to some medical emergencies. Kind of what we were just hearing a minute ago from our friend Erica Edwards about how this heat can make you sick. Tell us where and who is being hit the hardest in Italy.
Well, unfortunately, it's kind of all of Italy. In fact, in the recent days, some 23 of the 27 major cities in Italy have been under red alert, and authorities there have been warning the elderly, children, as well as people with pre-existing conditions that they are particularly vulnerable right now. As the WHO says that last year, they estimate about 60,000 people died due to extreme heat. They think by mid-century, it's going to be about 120,000 people per year. So this is really a significant health threat right now.
And Josh, also this heat wave stretching all the way to Eastern Europe. Severe storms expected there to continue. I know they've turned deadly. Tell us about this.
Yeah, we've just learned that a firefighter has died in Croatia, bringing the death toll to 6 in a recent deadly storm that has hit the Balkans. And while authorities there have not specified exactly how that firefighter died, we know that this storm has been particularly intense because it followed several days of really extreme heat. So it is just one more reminder of how these extreme weather events are really pushing the whole system out of whack, Savannah.
All right, Josh Letterman, stay safe. Thank you so much for your reporting.
Now to Washington, where a grand jury heard from another witness yesterday in the special counsel's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
It comes as former President Donald Trump continues to attack the investigation. NBC's Garrett Hake has been following this story, of course, and he joins us now from Washington. Hey, Garrett.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. All eyes are on the federal courthouse behind me this morning, where yesterday grand jurors heard for hours from a former Trump aide who appeared side by side with the former president on January 6th. For now, the legal and political world are left to wait on an indictment Mr. Trump believes is all but certain to come.
Donald Trump overnight hammering away at the special counsel he believes will soon indict him for a second time.
That's called election interference, and it's called weaponization of the justice system.
Lawfare. According to 2 attorneys with direct knowledge of the letter, it outlines 3 broad categories of potential charges, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S., deprivation of rights, and tampering with a witness, and offers Mr. Trump 4 days to come to Washington and testify. But those 4 days have now passed, the former president remaining at his New Jersey golf club, where he hosted a movie screening Wednesday and released this fundraising video focusing on the special counsel's case on Thursday.
It's a big and vicious witch hunt, but the real victim isn't me. The real victim is you.
In Washington, the special counsel investigation continuing Thursday, with prosecutors spending hours behind closed doors with former Trump White House aide Will Russell in what was at least his 3rd appearance before the grand jury. Russell, photographed side by side with Mr. Trump on January 6th, still works for his re-election campaign. While on Capitol Hill, Mr. Trump's congressional allies pushed for a politically symbolic vote to expunge his 2 impeachments.
I've been very clear from long before when I voted against impeachments that they put in for purely political purposes.
It's righting a wrong. It's erasing these wrongs.
This idea of an expungement resolution would have no practical effect, and it may not even have the votes to pass in the Republican-controlled House. But multiple sources close to the former president tell me he is very keen to see it get a vote on the House floor, and soon. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you so much.
For more, we are joined now by civil rights attorney and former prosecutor Kristen Gibbons-Fedden. She's also an NBC News contributor. Kristen, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So if prosecutors do end up accusing and charging Trump with trying to steal the 2020 election, how tough is this case? What are they going to need to prove?
I think it's
going to be a tough case, but it sounds like they're doing a thorough investigation. You know, for the conspiracy to defraud the U.S., they need to present evidence that Trump really acted in concert with others to defraud the United States. So this may include documented plans like the alleged attempt to use fake electors to overturn the election results, or even private communications suggesting some type of coordinated effort to influence the election outcome. And for the deprivation of rights charge, they're going to have to show that Trump deprived or conspired to deprive any person in the free exercise of some type of right. And in this context, that right in question would be the right to a free and fair election. So they may even present that recorded phone call pressuring the Georgia Secretary of State to find votes, you know, indicating that there was an attempt to interfere with that election, the free and fair election. And then for the witness tampering, prosecutors need to show that Trump attempted to alter, deter, or even influence the honest testimony of individuals connected to the investigation. So the aides may come in. But I think it's really essential to remember that the strength of a case will significantly depend on the quality of the evidence. And we just know from our past, you know, a lot of Trump's surrounding individuals really do support him. So it's going to be tough to get them to testify against them. Although, you know, an investigation has been ongoing and may potentially yield strong evidence.
So Trump himself says he expects to face criminal charges in this investigation. Obviously, we know prosecutors are still interviewing witnesses. This is ongoing. But if they do decide to seek charges in the case, help us understand what happens next.
Yeah, you know, if Trump is indicted by this grand jury, he's going to likely go through the very similar process that we saw in Florida. You know, post-indictment, he's going to be arraigned, and there would be a formal presentation of the charges, and he'll be asked to enter into a plea of guilty or not guilty. Generally, everyone at the arraignment stage will plead not guilty, and we know that Trump will probably follow suit. But then a trial date's going to be set, and then bail will probably, again, take the same type of view as in Florida, where he would be released on his own recognizance, which means he basically needs to make sure he shows up for every court date.
So, Kristen, if he is charged, if it does go to trial, this is potentially going to overlap with other trials. We've got the New York hush money case and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. You mentioned Georgia. We'll find out next month if he's going to be charged in Georgia in that case. Trump has pleaded not guilty in both those cases I mentioned where he faces charges. But how does a legal team prepare for all this?
It's challenging. You know, each of these cases are really distinct. They involve different legal jurisdictions and legal concepts and legal contexts. And so the legal strategy has to be different, but yet each of these cases are actually really interconnected. And the testimony in one or the evidence in one may affect or impact the testimony and the evidence in one. So the defense strategy really has to kind of work in concert in each case to make sure Trump doesn't say something that could potentially incriminate him in one case in another case. So it's going to be really challenging, adding to that all of the civil actions that he's got. So it's going to be a challenging road for the attorneys just from a legal perspective, but also prepping their client, who is also campaigning for presidency, is going to be a challenge as well.
Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, as always, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much.
Well, new details are emerging in the Gilgo Beach murders case. Law enforcement is now expanding their investigation to see if there is any connection between this case and unsolved cases in other states. This comes 1 week after police arrested this accused suspected serial killer for the murders. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the latest.
Hey there, Rex Sherman faces life in prison if he's found guilty on these 3 murder charges, but investigators are not stopping there. Now, police departments in 3 other states are looking for any possible links to their unsolved murders.
This morning, police are pouring through potential evidence they've collected from the Long Island home of Rex Sherman. Box after box were moved from the crime scene. The architect and father of 2 has pleaded not guilty to murdering 3 young women over a decade ago. And now NBC News has learned that investigators in other states are looking into potential connections to more crimes. In Las Vegas, police say they may reopen some unsolved murder cases since Sherman owns a condo there. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, authorities are taking another look at the unsolved Eastbound Strangler case from 2006, when the bodies of 4 women who worked in the sex trade were discovered in a drainage ditch. And in Rock Hill, South Carolina, police are probing if there's any connection to a young woman who vanished there in 2014. NBC News has reached out to Heuermann's attorney regarding these cases, but no response. All this as Heuermann sits in jail, held without bond.
The 3 times that I've visited his housing unit, he was laying on his bunk, was not watching TV. Twice he was sleeping, and once he had his eyes open, just looking at the ceiling.
Heuermann's longtime wife, Asa Ellerup, filed for divorce this week, according to her attorney. Ellerup's DNA is at the center of the case. The prosecutor says her hair was found at the crime scene. Ellerup and Heuermann were married at the time he's accused of killing those 3 women. Police believe his wife was traveling when Heuermann murdered his victims. She has not been charged with a crime. Ellerup's attorney released a statement to NBC News on behalf of their client, writing of the, quote, sensitive nature of her husband's arrest, taking an emotional toll on the family. They also added Ellerup is requesting privacy at this time. Back to you.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Well, coming up, the U.S. Army has launched an investigation of the soldier who crossed into North Korea earlier this week.
But the notoriously isolationist country has gone radio silent on the matter. We'll have the latest next.
We're back with the latest on U.S. soldier Travis King, who crossed over into North Korea earlier this week. The U.S. Army has launched an investigation into the incident, but so far there has been radio silence from North Korea. NBC News correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Hi, Matt. Good to see you. So what is the latest from U.S. officials on all this? Do they know anything right now about King's condition or whereabouts?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Savannah. We have no latest. There is no latest news here. And the fact is, it raises the question, where is Private King? We heard from Washington. They said that there was going to be a sprawling investigation involving various government entities and diplomatic channels, including the United Nations, the Swedish mission in Pyongyang, representatives here in Seoul through the military, which have some connection to the military and to officials in North Korea. And yet, where can that investigation go if no one is answering the phone on the other side? And that is exactly what we're seeing. So the fact is, we haven't heard from North Korea. They haven't even acknowledged they have Private King in custody. And we don't know still anything about Private King's actual motives in moving over the border. So this is all still very much a mystery. And that wouldn't be such a problem, except that we're now in day 4. It's now been 3 days since he dashed across the border, shocking the world and creating this diplomatic crisis. And we still don't know what the situation is. So that is a big, big headache for Washington and for diplomats and for the U.S. military posted here in South Korea. Guys.
Absolutely. Also, Matt, we understand that there are these new details, though, emerging about King's life in the months leading up to this incident. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think has been really interesting is his criminal record here, because we've been talking about at least 2, possibly 3 assault charges against him. Now we're learning that there were no actual charges against him, but he had been at least detained probably twice for assault, both of them involving late-night incidents at nightclubs or bars here in Seoul. And in one of them, he was put in a police car where he shouted epithets against Koreans and the Korean police, and then he started kicking the car. He did about $500 in damage to a police car while he was briefly detained. He was fined $5,000, and instead of paying that fine, again, both of these incidents occurred last autumn, instead of paying that fine, he, it sounds like, elected to do time in jail, which you can do here in South Korea in order to pay off that fine. So he spent 48 days in jail. He was released on July 10th, and a week later, that was when he decided to join one of those guided tours that take you right up to the DMZ. You can do that anywhere here in Seoul. It's not clear exactly where he joined this tour. And then that was when he decided to make that shocking dash across the border. So that is the timeline. There was no assault that put him in jail. It was essentially a decision that he made in order to pay off his debt to the South Korean police. Guys?
Matt Bradley, thank you very much.
More international news now. Britain's Conservative Party's on edge after a major political defeat.
NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez is back to join us live from Tel Aviv with that and other world headlines. Hey, Raf, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Yeah, Britain's governing Conservative Party suffering a pair of defeats in by-elections overnight. The party of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak lost 2 seats in what were normally safe areas, a bad sign for the party ahead of a general election next year. A small consolation for them, they did manage to hold on to the seat of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. In India, a disturbing video is going viral showing 2 women being subjected to sexual assaults by a crowd of men. The women are believed to be from a Christian minority in northeast India and were attacked by a mob of mainly Hindu men. The incident took place during widespread intercommunal violence in May. And finally, a little luxury for some of Australia's smallest ocean creatures. Seahorses in Sydney are enjoying these so-called seahorse hotels. They're made from biodegradable metal, and they give the endangered seahorses something to latch on to. All signs are the seahorses love them, and this is going to make a big difference for conservation efforts. No word, guys, on whether there's room service available in these hotels.
Looks like it's a buffet right there. And
That was very funny. Oh my gosh, these are kind of one of those creatures that you almost forget are real until you actually see them.
So
they're
cool.
just, it's
very
so
majestic.
neat. Yeah,
All right,
great to see.
Thank you. Coming up, it is countdown to kickoff as Team USA gears up for its opening match.
Up next, we'll take you inside their showdown with Vietnam in a Women's World Cup that's seeing record-breaking sales. Stay with us.
We're back with what's set to be a huge day for soccer fans in the U.S. In New Zealand, Team USA begins the defense of its Women's World Cup title against Vietnam tonight. Well, in Florida, Lionel Messi is expected to make his highly anticipated debut for his new team, Inter Miami. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is covering all the excitement for us from Fort Lauderdale. Hey, Sam, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. There is no shortage of excitement right now, and it's really hard to think of a precedent for a day in soccer or football like this. Let's start with Messi. It's not like he's just wrapping up his career. He just led Argentina to a World Cup title. Speaking of World Cup titles, let's also remember the women right now in action against Vietnam tonight. As you mentioned, they are the #1 ranked team in the world with millions of fans cheering them on.
Two of the most highly anticipated sporting events of the summer are about to kick off. Argentine soccer legend Lionel Messi will play his first game for Major League Soccer's Inter Miami CF tonight against Cruz Azul from Mexico City, while the Women's World Cup is already underway with Team USA in the spotlight, making their debut against Vietnam also tonight in New Zealand. The two showstoppers showcasing the incredible football fever sweeping the nation. In Miami, fans are over the moon about Messi.
How would you describe the excitement now that he's here?
Oh, it's a frenzy. It's a frenzy.
Meanwhile, bars and restaurants coast to coast are gearing up to hold watch parties for all Team USA matches from Washington State to Philly.
The World Cup only comes around every 4 years, so it's something special for everyone to gather and watch.
The sport now finding major footing here at home, thanks in large part to the U.S. women's national team, led by star players Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan.
It's going to take all of us, and it's going to take all of us at our absolute best every step of the way.
NBC's Molly Hunter is on the ground in Auckland, where Team USA fans have found their way.
Now, we may be on the other side of the world. It is a very long trip to get here. These women all went to the World Cup in France. They are back for the action here in New Zealand. And who are we cheering for? USA! USA! USA!
And don't forget Messi's massive star power. More than just an athlete, but a source of inspiration around the globe.
I cried when he got signed to Miami.
Why?
Because it's a joy.
Messi's Inter Miami debut driving up ticket prices almost 500%, according to Ticket IQ, while over 1.4 million tickets have been sold for the Women's World Cup. The soccer stars aligning during a truly special time for the world's most popular sport.
So, Joe, 20,500 people is the capacity of the stadium behind me, Drive Pink. Of course, they are sold out. Talking about those ticket prices, they went for average home games resale $150 to $850. This, my friends, is the hottest jersey in Major League Soccer right now, the pink Messi jersey. As for the women, they're going for a three-peat that has never been done, and they are the favorites to win this year. Back to you.
All right, so much excitement, Sam. Thank you so much. All right, we cover a lot of shark news around here, but this morning we have something a little different. We're looking at baby sharks.
Each year, scientists in North Carolina conduct a survey of the animals in one of the largest shark nurseries in the country. NBC News Chief Environmental Affairs correspondent Ann Thompson got an inside look. She's here with more. Hey, Ann.
Good morning. We think of sharks and man as enemies, but in reality, it is scientists who are helping to bring back shark populations that were overfished in the 1980s. And by studying the youngest of these creatures, cue that baby shark theme, we can understand how better to share the ocean. In the morning quiet of South Carolina's Low Country, there's work to be done.
All right, let's see what we got.
Marine biologist Brian Fraser and a team of researchers conduct the 25th annual survey of baby sharks. Using gill nets, a drum line, and long lines baited with mackerel.
This looks like a pretty big piece of bait for a baby shark.
Well, these baby sharks are, they're a little bigger than you think, and they're definitely hungry.
45 miles north of Charleston, from these estuaries, nature's nurseries,
We got a baby shark. Baby shark.
they pull the infant versions of the creatures we fear.
They're here because there's just abundant prey for them.
How long do baby sharks stay in this estuary?
Most of them are only here for about 4 months.
With the precision of a NASCAR pit crew so as not to stress the babies,
Lots of fine tooth.
they bring up the sharks,
Partly healed. Female.
record the sex, age, length,
457, 573.
tag the dorsal fin where it doesn't hurt,
Tag number 72651.
then back in the water they go, all in under a minute.
What are the headlines so far from this year's survey?
Business as usual, right? Shark populations are continuing to rebound, so we're seeing good numbers this year. All the species that should be are here, and that's a good thing.
On this trip, they brought in 6 different species with a little help.
So this is a female sandbar shark.
How old?
You can barely see the umbilical scar right there. So this one is probably about 3 weeks old. You can tell it's a female. She doesn't have claspers there. And this is one of the slowest growing species we have in South Carolina.
How big will she eventually get to be?
She will get to about 7 to 8 feet.
Wow.
But it's going to take her about 15 years to mature.
But the vast majority were fine-toothed sharks.
Brian coming in hot.
Yep. All right. I like it. Male. Yep. And he's doing feisty. I like it. Well healed. Is that one more fine tooth? Got him. All right.
Yep.
All right. It's a male. Well healed.
The most eye-catching, the scalloped hammerhead.
So this guy is probably about a month old. James's tag. Let this little guy here.
James is Dr. James Sulikowski of Oregon State.
We're going to release this lively little hammer. Look at him go.
On the East Coast to see the results of his satellite birth tag, revealing where the sharks have their pups. This pregnant hammerhead swam from Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, to South Carolina to give birth.
We're finding that these large sharks are giving birth in these really coastal areas. So as these areas change, with climate and urbanization, we need to know where those sharks are so we can interact better as human beings.
Can sharks and people coexist in the ocean?
I hope so. The ocean is the sharks' home, and we are intruders into their homes. We need them to have a healthy ocean.
Now, if you're wondering why sharks are so crucial to the environment, these are apex predators, and they help keep the ocean in balance, a balance that keeps millions of people around the world who depend on the ocean for jobs employed, and for those of us who like fish and shellfish, fed. So it's very important that we know everything about them so we can coexist peacefully.
Awesome. Thanks for taking us in there. We appreciate it,
Seeing
Ann.
babies makes it all easier.
Yes.
We have breaking news this morning. American musical icon Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96.
Bennett died in his home state of New York. He was best known for songs like his signature 1962 hit, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Bennett has been praised for being one of the best pop performers of all time, with a career spanning over 8 decades. NBC News Now anchor Morgan Radford takes a look back at his tremendous impact on the music industry.
Oh, the good life.
Tony Bennett.
I found you just in time.
the great singer of the Great American Songbook.
The way you look tonight.
His music defining a generation with shiny tuxedos, big bands, and smoky jazz joints.
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
But before he was Tony, he was Anthony Dominic Benedetto, a child of the Great Depression, born and raised by a single mother in Queens, New York.
When I was 10 years old, he said, "We love the way you paint and we love the way you sing." And so I said, "That's who I am."
He dropped out of high school to support his family at age 16 and was later drafted by the Army, serving in World War II.
I decided that when I get out of the Army, I'm going to go into show business.
He got his big break in 1949 when entertainer Bob Hope saw him singing in a New York City club and hired him with one suggestion, that he change his name to Tony Bennett.
The best is yet to come, and babe, won't that be fine?
A star was born.
San Francisco.
In 1962, Bennett topped the charts with his hit I Left My Heart in San Francisco, winning his first of many Grammys.
As I approach the prime of my life.
As his career skyrocketed, he also became an activist in the civil rights movement while developing his other love, painting.
When you get lucky enough to nail one painting that really looks good, it's really a quiet celebration.
But there was a dark underbelly to his success. Bennett developed a drug addiction in the 1970s and took a 10-year hiatus. He made a comeback in the 80s, becoming a favorite of the MTV generation.
What do you say we do one for the MTV crowd?
Bennett married 3 times and raised 4 children. In 2007, he tied the knot with Susan Crowe after the two dated for decades. Meanwhile, his popularity continued to surge in the 2000s when he recorded duets with megastars like Paul McCartney,
The very thought of you.
Elton John,
My fate is up to you.
and Lady Gaga.
That's why the lady is a tramp.
My whole life, I love what I do.
In 2021, the singer revealed his Alzheimer's diagnosis and announced both a final album and concert with Lady Gaga to mark his 95th birthday.
Yet I get a kick out of you.
A final farewell, but a lasting legacy.
What a life! I'm in love.
Morgan Radford, NBC News, New York.
When your legacy stretches from Frank Sinatra to Lady Gaga,
It's
you know
incredible.
you've had an iconic career.
Oh, wow.
Stay with us. More morning news now after this. We're back now with some financial news. FTX is suing its founder for misappropriating $10 million in company funds.
CNBC's Silvana Hanau is here with that and other news. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Yeah, so FTX is suing founder Sam Bankman-Fried and other former executives of the crypto exchange as it tries to recoup more than $1 billion they allegedly misappropriated before the company went bankrupt. FTX claims Bankman-Fried and others repeatedly used company funds to pay for luxury condos, political contributions, and other pet projects while committing one of the largest financial frauds in history. A spokesman for Bankman-Fried declined to comment. FTX is now led by John Ray, who managed Enron after the energy traders collapsed in 2001. DreamWorks Land is coming to Universal Studios Orlando in 2024. The new theme park section will feature characters from DreamWorks Animation, including Shrek and Kung Fu Panda. It's part of a move to upgrade the former Kids Zone space at Universal Orlando Resort, which is owned by NBC Universal parent Comcast. The announcement follows news of an all-new Minions Land in Florida, featuring an interactive gaming experience. And pickles and wine, a perfect combination? Well, Clausen is teaming with Spritz Society to create a first-of-its-kind pickle-flavored cocktail. It will be sold in grocery stores in 8.4-ounce cans. Each has 6% alcohol per volume, 120 calories, and 5 grams of sugar. The adult beverage will also be sold online as 2 packs or 4 for $50 on SprintSociety.com for a limited time.
I mean, I do like pickled
Not for me.
potato chips.
I would do this I like a pickle martini instead of olive juice. I know that's but the wine thing is throwing me. We got to see what it is.
All right, thanks, Savannah. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, well, the new Barbie movie is out today, and Barbie mania certainly seems to be spreading.
Today, though, we're going to recognize one of the doll world's pioneers who helped bring the first official black Barbie to life.
That's right. Lavinia Kitty Black Perkins joins us now. Not only is she the former chief designer for Mattel Barbie, but she's also the designer of the first official black Barbie. Kitty, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us as we head into Barbie weekend.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much. So tell us, how did you break into the world of Barbie? What was that like, essentially, being a trailblazer more than 40 years ago?
Actually, it was a blind ad that I answered in the California Apparel News. And when I went on the interview, I was given a doll to take home and dress and bring it back.
So, Kitty, some people might be familiar with the Christie doll. We're going to show what she looked like in the 55th anniversary video. She was a black doll who debuted back in 1968 as Barbie's friend. Tell us what was different about the doll you created a few years later in 1980 and how you helped design the doll.
I wanted the doll to look a lot like black people. And what I did was I gave her a short natural, which was very popular at the time. I gave her a slim silhouette rather than a full ball gown that we usually give for Barbie. And I wanted to really emphasize everything that Barbie wasn't, because there was a different culture there that I wanted to express.
Lavinia, are you going to be seeing Barbie?
Yes, I am.
How exciting, right? You'll see some of what you were involved directly with.
We look forward to your review.
Yeah.
I can't wait. And thank you so much for having me on, because this is very exciting.
Oh, you are so welcome. Kitty, thank you for your time this morning, and congratulations on all you did here, and happy movie watching.
Oh, thank you.
Well, coming up, are you seeing Barbie or maybe Oppenheimer?
Yeah, or and. Brian Balthazar going to join us next to dive into one of Hollywood's most anticipated weekends at the box office. Our can't miss list is next. It's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list.
That's right, and this is probably one of the most anticipated opening weekends of the summer blockbuster season because of two particular movies, and we also, of course, have a little breaking news this morning as well.
We're joined by entertainment journalist and pop culture expert, our friend Brian Balthazar. So we do want to talk about the big news this morning, which is Tony Bennett. NBC News has now confirmed Tony Bennett has passed away at the age of 96, just a couple weeks shy of his 97th birthday.
Yeah.
You had lunch with him?
Yeah, what an icon. And really, I had lunch with him once, and then I did work with him on a segment with him and Lady Gaga. I have to say, what a gentleman, really, truly kind human being, charming, all of those things. And then when he was working with Lady Gaga, I really did see the nurturing coming from Lady Gaga, the protectiveness and the camaraderie and love between the two of them. I mean, there's a legend, and what a life. So you have to celebrate 96 amazing years and 70 albums, 19 Grammys, most of them after the age of 60 was when much of his recognition came after 60. A lot of the awards came later in his life. So there's some inspiration in that, too.
We will be celebrating him today and through the weekend. We do want to talk about the other big news this weekend. Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Right?
They got buzz,
I need to tell you?
but
You know all of it already, right?
How are the reviews, though? I mean, are people liking them?
The reviews have been good. The tomato meters, 89% for Barbie, 92% for Oppenheimer. And, you know, we're expecting well over 100 million, I think, for Barbie. And in the 60 million range for Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer's the winner in that it gets to kind of piggyback off of the hype machine that is Barbie and this kind of fun rivalry they've carved out for themselves. But, you know, a lot of people doing double features. You said in your story 40,000 tickets had been sold for double features.
And that stat was from like Monday, so it's definitely more now.
And people are saying Barbie's the winner. Let's make no mistake, you can get more Barbie showings in a day because it's 2 hours.
Yes.
Oppenheimer's 3 hours. And it's just a totally different film. So, you know, go see what's for you or both.
Yeah, I've seen Oppenheimer, which was fantastic, but I can't wait to see Barbie. But unless you want to sit in the front row,
Right. Yeah. I don't have that. I don't have that yearning.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's really incredible how well they're both already selling. Okay, let's talk if you're staying in, if maybe you can't get tickets, like we just said, and you want to stream some stuff. I know we have Steph Curry's biopic and also something from the creators of Yellowstone, which we all love.
Right. So Steph Curry, Underrated, is on Apple TV+. And this is interesting because he is the son of a basketball player, but he did have all these odds to overcome. You know, the scrawny kid that kind of everyone was writing off. A lot of colleges weren't interested in him in the beginning. Wow. So this is a really, I know, and now he's the best shooter there is. He's kind of credited with getting people to really take more three-pointer shots. I love talking sports. I mean, come on. No wonder you called me.
For you.
Get Brian on the phone.
Like me. We should do a sports show.
Right? Let's do it. Okay. And then we have Special Ops Lioness on Paramount Plus. This is, like you said, from the creator of Yellowstone. And this is about a real division of the CIA that trains women. But obviously, this is a fictionalized series about a young trainee, and they're trying to thwart terrorism. Zoe Saldana is in it. This looks compelling. And I think that this is going to get a lot of attention. The trailer is fantastic. So if you get a chance at home, watch the full trailer.
All right, 15-second recap here. Britney Spears, Will.i.am have a song, Mind Your Business. They do. Do we listen?
Absolutely. Everybody's going to listen.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be the judge. I don't think it's going to calm any speculation about what's going on there. We don't know what's going on yet.
But she's singing. She's
making music.
singing. So there you go. She's got Will.i.am.
Yeah. Whew, all right. Well, that's what I'm doing after the show. Waiting to listen because
I know. And looking for those scalped bargain tickets.
Questions. Yeah.
All right.
Brian, thank you. We love when you're here. Happy Friday.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.